This is the 2 Series Active Tourer, and it represents two firsts for BMW. It's the first car to wear a BMW badge that's front-wheel drive, and it's also the first time BMW has made an MPV. Even though it has the 2 Series name, the Active Tourer actually has very little to do with the 2 Series Coupe. In fact, underneath the skin, it actually uses the new Mini chassis. Thankfully, it's an extended version of the Mini's platform, so it does feel nice and roomy here inside the 2 Series Active Tourer's cabin. There's also lots of adjustment in the driver's seat. You've got height adjustment, as you can see here, though this particular model, it has the electric seats upgrade. Also, BMW seem to give you that little bit more adjustment than other manufacturers in the steering wheel, so whether you're big or small, you're going to be able to get comfy here behind the wheel. Standard equipment is very good as well on this particular model. For instance, you've got dual zone climate control as standard, not just normal air conditioning. You've also got DAB digital radio, you've got Bluetooth for your mobile phone, you've also got parking sensors as standard, and all cars come with a 6.5-inch screen, though this particular car has the upgraded widescreen version and the upgraded sat-nav, which includes traffic alerts, and that's a very, very good system, one of the best on the market. You probably notice if you look up here, it's got the optional panoramic sunroof, and that stretches all the way to the back, makes the cabin feel nice and roomy, especially for the kids there in the back, and they'll love that. BMW does fabulous interiors, and this one is no exception. The design is impeccable and all the surfaces in your direct line of sight look and feel high quality. The 2 Series Active Tourer may be designed for families, but it's still suitably posh. BMW has always claimed to make the ultimate driving machine, and that's why it's never used front-wheel drive before. You see, front-wheel drive, it's a little bit of a compromise because the front wheels have to steer, but they also have to provide all of the drive. And wheels, they're a little bit like us men. They're not that great at multitasking, especially when you put them under pressure. Thing is though, unless you're really pushing a car hard, you don't really feel the limitations of front-wheel drive, and any normal car buyer who's in the market for an MPV, they're not going to care if this car's front-wheel drive or not, really. And anyway, don't go thinking that being front-wheel drive means the 2 Series Active Tourer doesn't drive well. BMW makes the Mini, and it's a fun little car to drive, and so it's put its know-how into the 2 Series Active Tourer. In some ways, this car handles very much like a front-wheel drive hot hatch, so the steering, it's sharp and it's accurate, puts the car exactly where you want it to go. There's lots of grip, and when you go into a corner, even when you're going pretty quickly, it doesn't roll around like you'd expect an MPV to. Corners very, very flat. The suspension is probably a little bit maybe on the firm side compared to other MPVs, but it's never uncomfortable. It's only the really big bumps that you feel come through into the cabin, and these seats, I really like them. They're very, very comfortable, and when you're cruising along the motorway at speed, it's nice and quiet in here. It helps that the 2 Series Active Tourer gets BMW's new 2-litre diesel engine, which first appeared in the new Mini, and it's just not as noisy as the old one you still get in BMW's other models. It feels fairly quick. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 8.9 seconds, which is reasonable, isn't it, for MPV? So too is the economy figure of 68.9 miles per gallon. Though I reckon that if you don't plan to do many motorway miles, you'll probably be better off saving yourself some money and getting the 1.5-litre turbo petrol, because it's also pretty nippy and reasonably economical. Plus, with a £2 saving, you'll put some of that money towards the excellent 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now, I'm not a big fan of BMW's manuals, but their autos are brilliant, and so is the one in this car. Another thing you can put some of that saving towards is the adaptive dampers. That alters the stiffness of the suspension between two modes, comfort or sport, when you press this button down here. Also, when you press this button on all the cars, it alters the sharpness of the throttle response and the weight of the steering. It's just that when you have in sports mode, the steering just feels unnaturally heavy, and I don't really like it like that. Another problem that I have with the car is the blind spots. You get a bit of a blind spot by this large pillar here, and if you look over your shoulder, say when you're trying to park or maneuver, there's another big blind spot at the back, and that is probably why BMW has decided to give you some parking sensors as standard. Perhaps the most obvious problem with the 2 Series Active Tourer is that for an MPV, it doesn't do anything particularly big nor particularly clever. I mean, yes, it has got a power tailgate, but if I'm honest, quite a lot of people find those a little bit annoying. The issue is that the boot isn't actually that large. A Citroen C4 Picasso's is way bigger than this, and if I just remove these suitcases, You can see that, yes, there is some extra storage under there if you want. You can actually remove this panel, but then you have to leave it at home, which is a bit annoying. With in-place, you do have no load lid, which is good. And I quite like the way you can fold the seats down like that. It's just flick of a button and they electrically pop down, and you do have a flat load bay. But once again, this overall load volume, it's way off the class leaders, you know. Then you go to the back seats. I'll just shut this down. Now, thankfully, putting the seats back is a relatively painless affair. There we go. Nice and easy to do. No problem at all. And overall, the space back here is pretty reasonable. I've got decent headroom. That's even with the panoramic sunroof, and normally those eat into headspace. Knee room is pretty good as well. And like with other MPVs, you can slide the seats forwards and backwards, depending on what you want to do, bigger boot or more knee room, and you can recline them like that as well. Thing is though, that many of the French MPVs, I mean, they're the leaders in this area really, they have individual chairs here, so you have 3 individual chairs. But you'll notice on this BMW, these 2 are joined, and that means that you only get Isofix fittings here and here, so you can only put a baby seat here or here. Also, if you want to carry 3 people, the middle seat, it's a little bit of a perch, and if you look down here, you'll notice there's this hump. Other MPVs have a flat floor. The reason you've got a hump there is because this particular car will be available with all-wheel drive, and you need somewhere to send the drive shaft through to the back wheels. It's the same story with storage. There are sufficient cubbies for a hatchback, but the glove box and centre cubby is a little bit small for what you'd expect on an MPV, and there are no other clever storage areas like you get with a Volkswagen Golf Plus. Finally, there's the fact that you don't actually sit up all that high in the 2 Series Active Tourer, and that is one of the few things that people do actually like about driving around in an MPV. But then I reckon you shouldn't think of this car as being an MPV, think of it more as a posh family hatchback. Then it actually makes quite a lot of sense. Obviously you've got that ultra desirable BMW badge, but if you'd rather have a Mercedes badge, you can watch our review of the Mercedes B-Class by clicking up here. Click down there to watch our review of the Citroën C4 Picasso, down here to watch our very latest video review, and up there on our logo to subscribe to our channel.